Python's simplicity is, honestly, one of the biggest reasons it's become such a universal favorite in the programming world. And when I talk about simplicity, I don't just mean easy to use. I mean, Python's syntax is really, really straightforward. It's almost like you're reading plain English. You don't have to get bogged down by tons of confusing symbols or intricate rules. If you've ever looked at a snippet of code and felt immediately lost, Python kind of removes that intimidation factor. Take something like Java or C++. Those languages, while powerful, can feel pretty overwhelming to a beginner. If you miss a semicolon somewhere, boom, your code doesn't work, and you're left staring at an error message that might as well be written in ancient Greek. Python, on the other hand, minimizes the boilerplate. It's all about focusing on the logic, solving the actual problem, rather than battling with the language itself. You can just, dive right in and start creating. In fact, I've got this friend who, not too long ago, decided she wanted to learn how to code. Total beginner. Had never written a single line of code in her life. She started with Python and this is no exaggeration, within 3 weeks she had built her very first application. Like a working app she could actually use. That's the power of Python's simplicity. It shortens the learning curve so much that even people who feel like they're not techie can pick it up and start making something meaningful. Let's talk about what makes Python such a powerhouse across, basically any domain you can think of. One of the biggest reasons is its ability to support multiple programming paradigms. Whether it's procedural programming with its step-by-step approach, object-oriented programming for things like building classes and objects, or even functional programming, which is all about using, I guess you could say, reusable functions. Python does it all without, forcing you into one specific mold. And then there are the libraries and frameworks. I mean, honestly, this is where Python really shines. If you're building websites, you've got options like Django and Flask that kind of handle all the heavy lifting behind the scenes, so you can focus on the creative part, the stuff that makes your project stand out. And for anyone diving into data science, tools like Pandas and NumPy are pretty much staples. These libraries simplify data manipulation and analysis to the point where even enormous datasets don't seem so daunting anymore. Now, machine learning, that's a whole other arena where Python dominates. TensorFlow is a name that comes up a lot here. It's this insanely powerful library that developers use to create, these complex AI models. And the best part, you don't have to be some coding wizard to begin using it. Python keeps everything simpler, but still incredibly effective. I actually came across this story about a startup. They were kind of struggling to keep up with repetitive tasks, and it was eating into their productivity big time. So they turned to Python. They automated a bunch of their processes, things like data entry and report generation, and the results were pretty unreal. Not only did their efficiency go through the roof, but they also freed up their team to focus on more creative, high-value work, all thanks to Python's scripting capabilities. Pretty impressive, right? When we talk about what makes Python such a standout language, we can't skip over its ecosystem. It's not just about the programming itself, it's also about, everything that surrounds it. For one thing, Python's standard library is absolutely gigantic. It comes packed with pre-written code for so many things. File manipulation, web tools, math operations, you name it. It's what developers call the batteries included philosophy, and it means you're not constantly reinventing the wheel every time you sit down to build something. And then there's PyPy, the Python Package Index. It's basically this massive warehouse of third-party modules developers have created over the years. Whatever problem you're facing, chances are someone's already built a library to solve it. Need tools for data visualization. There's Matplotlib for web scraping, Beautiful Soup, automation, Selenium. It's honestly kind of wild how much is just there for you to plug in and use. But the real secret sauce, if you ask me, is the community. Python has this amazing, thriving community of developers, from absolute beginners to the hardcore experts, and they're constantly sharing knowledge, answering questions, and creating resources. It's like if you're stuck on a problem, you're never truly stuck. Someone's written a tutorial, made a YouTube video, or answered a question in a forum. to help get you past it. It's one of the reasons Python stays so beginner-friendly. The support network is incredible. And this community isn't just supporting professionals, it's reaching kids too. A lot of schools have started hosting Python workshops, teaching students the basics of coding while they're still young. And you can see how this is kind of laying the foundation for the next generation of programmers. It's pretty inspiring, honestly. So when you combine all of this, the tools, the resources, the people, you're looking at a programming language that's not just powerful today, but primed to stay relevant for decades to come. And that's, I think, the real story of Python. It's a language that grows with you, supports you, and lets you keep innovating, whether you're building your first project or your 50th. On that note, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, keep creating.